depending on when you're watching this, I have spent a good solid week with the Nintendo Switch 2. I bought the Switch 2 on launch day, and much to my surprise, I didn't actually think I was going to be able to buy it on launch day. However, that goes hand in hand with the fact that Nintendo has sold 3.5 million plus copies, 3.5 million plus units of the Nintendo Switch 2. That's huge numbers. I, in my lifetime, have never seen numbers like that on a launch console, ever. Especially as we come out of the last 5 years in which we saw scalpers and just people taking advantage of the shortages for the PlayStation 5 and people reselling them for almost a good solid year and making double their money on the units that they were able to reserve and buy up, before other people could. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with Nintendo's ability to deliver and actually over-deliver in terms of what people were expecting. I don't think anybody expected to actually get their hands on one within the first week of launch. And that goes back to what I was saying as far as this is a launch like we've never seen before. At least to my knowledge. Please tell me if I'm wrong. But I remember when the PlayStation 2 came out and, my dad calling Best Buy day after day trying to see if they would have one. Again, the PS5, the first Nintendo Switch. I didn't get my first Nintendo Switch till almost a year after it came out. And I was prepared to wait. I was prepared to wait for the Nintendo Switch 2, long after Donkey Kong Bonanza came out, long after Nintendo announced more games in the fall, as they inevitably will. I thought I would get one maybe around Christmas, maybe around February next year. It just seemed like the right timeline. I did not expect to have one in my hands at this time. However, I do. And I've spent a week with it. There are some weaknesses. There are some strengths. And full discretion, I'm biased. I am a Nintendo fan through and through. Before even a lot of the comic books that I would go on to read in my life, I knew Mario. That was the first character that I knew and loved since I was 3 years old. The Super Mario Brothers movie meant a lot to me because of that. And those feelings of Mario are very nostalgic to me, so full discretion, I'm biased, right? But I do want to be fair, okay? I do want to not look at the Switch 2 with complete rose-colored glasses. I'll take off those rose-colored glasses, when they need to be taken off. But I think that the hate and the divisiveness that this console has gotten over the past couple of months since it was announced are completely overblown. I think that gamers and, just in general, nerd culture has this feeling that just because an individual hates something or they have opinions, that the rest of the world has to share that or they're wrong. And I think that's the worst part about being a gamer. I think that's the worst part about being a fan of something, that would be considered, a little bit more nerdy in the gamer side of things, because we're almost not welcoming to other people like ourselves. We shoot them down very fast. We shoot ideas down very fast. We almost don't even want to have the conversation about it and respect the fact that somebody else might be enjoying it. For instance, the meme of the person yelling at the people that are actually enjoying having fun with Mario Kart World. It's a very real meme because people got irrationally angry at the Switch 2 coming out. Just checking to make sure my daughter hasn't woken up. They were irrationally angry. Death threats. I thought we were boycotting this as gamers. When did we all agree that we were going to do this? Right? Of course, there were the skeptics of people saying, and I think this is very healthy, of don't go buy a console at launch. Historically, that's never been a good thing to do. They break down. There's problems. There's bugs. I think that's fair criticism. I think that's fair criticism based on a history of consoles not working the way they're supposed to at launch. Very fair. This idea of, well, I don't like the business practices that Nintendo is doing. Okay, that is an opinion. That is a personal feeling. Well, I think that the Steam Deck is going to be more powerful, and therefore the Nintendo Switch 2 as a handheld is irrelevant. That is an opinion. Because I think that what the Switch 2 is going to do, the Switch 2 is going to do what Nintendo has always done with their consoles, and that is it is going to be a console primarily to play Mario games where you cannot play them on any other consoles. Do not talk to me about emulation. I love emulation, but I'm not going to be able to play the newest Mario game or the newest Nintendo game, such as the next Zelda, the next Metroid, on the Steam Deck right away. I can play it on a Switch too. When it comes down to the console itself, I actually personally think that it's been a lot of fun. I actually think it feels very premium. I think that the screen is beautiful. Is it the best graphics available? No. However, when I play something like Mario Kart World, I can see the vast jump from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe over to Mario Kart World. And look, I'm not playing this to play high-end AAA games. However, when you think of Mario at its core, and you think of the fact that you even let's take it a step further. You think of Mario at its core, you think of Wii Sports, and when you play that game, when you put that game in, you could jump into that game. You could jump into playing Wii Sports. You can hand a controller to your grandma, and she will be able to do bowling with you. That is what Nintendo is good at. That is what Nintendo is great at, bringing that magic into your home. Of course, when I play Mario Kart 8, yes, the open world does feel very empty. I think it was implemented maybe a little hastily. I don't think it was very well thought out. To me, I don't really feel the need at this moment to go and find all the P-switches. Maybe one day I will. However, I don't feel like that's the main appeal to the game for me. What I do like about the open world is it works great as a lobby. Why would I just want to wait on a blank screen when I could be roaming around this open world doing jumps and drifting about and waiting for other players to join the game? I think the open world functions as a really great lobby. Could it be a little bit more purposeful? Yes. However, it gives me something to do in the couple minutes that I'm waiting for people to join up and pick their map. I think it's awesome for that. Now, when I play Mario Kart World, comparing it to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I was not a huge fan of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's online mode. However, with Mario Kart World, I do feel that it's way more engaging. I do feel like the things that I didn't really like about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe online, it was very buggy for me. It was very laggy. I didn't always have the best connection. I feel like they've ironed out a lot of those wrinkles. Maybe it's not perfect for a lot of people. However, I haven't really had a major problem, except for yesterday, in which I couldn't actually find a match and it kept disconnecting me. I don't know what was going on with that. However, I actually want to jump in and play more. And even if I get my ass handed to me, I want to play again and again and try again. And I might get closer to third place in one match and get completely taken out at the end of the race. Makes me want to try again. Makes me want to try again. Makes me want to try again. Is it frustrating? Absolutely. But in the way that Mario Kart is supposed to be frustrating and challenging. I've had a lot of fun online. I think they've done a beautiful job online. I think it's going to get bigger. I think it's going to get possibly better. I don't think that the open world is their big selling point. I think that playing online, that's their selling point. When you talk about accessibility to the game, you're going to have kids that want to join up and play online and get better and learn the metagame and learn different characters and learn different cars. That is what Mario Kart 8 World is going to draw people in to do. Right now, I don't feel like a big need to go and get 3 stars on every circuit. I don't think that's a weakness of the game. Now, in terms of the rest of the Switch and its offerings, yes, a huge weakness of the Switch 2 is the fact that, to me, there's not a lot of other games outside of Mario Kart 8 World that I'd necessarily want to go play. I don't really want to go play Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch 2 right now. Is it amazing that they got it on there, especially with all of the game's shortcomings over the last couple years since it's been released? Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I love to see that they've got it running well on the Switch 2. However, even the Best Buy employee was a little confused when I didn't really want to go buy another game with the Switch 2. To me, Mario Kart was fine. That's all I wanted. Now, is that to say Nintendo is not going to release more games for it? I think that's a foolish thing to say. I think that personally, Nintendo is going to have the next 3 to 5 years of the Nintendo Switch 2's lineup already thought about and already planned, and they're already working on it. That's what I think. I have no scientific data to back that up. I have no resources or references to back that up. It's just something that I feel, right? You could think I'm wrong. That is fine. However, this idea that Nintendo isn't going to have enough games for the Switch and where's all the games at right now? Okay, yeah, maybe they could have thought about their launch a little bit better. However, when I think back to the initial Switch, I think that the initial Switch was very slow at coming out with something that would really entice people to go out and buy. For a long time, the first Nintendo Switch was very, very, very focused on releasing a lot of JRPGs. Something myself, and something I know a lot of people were very upset about because they're not into JRPGs. However, I think because of COVID, and I think because of, maybe they didn't plan it out. I have no idea why, but that's all they were releasing for a long time. However, I think it was in the last 2 to 3 years for the Switch's life that they really went hard in releasing things that people wanted. It took a long time. And I think this idea that Nintendo is, not ready with a handful of games at launch, is it disappointing? Absolutely. Could they have done a better job of releasing Bonanza with it? Absolutely. I do think that Nintendo wanted Mario Kart World to be the focus. And again, with their online mode, I think that's why. And it's going to keep a lot of people busy for the next month until Donkey Kong Bonanza comes out. I personally don't think people are ready for the hype that Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to cause. The internet was very hyped when Nintendo Shadow announced Splatoon Raiders. I don't think people expected an adventure game from the Splatoon world. So Nintendo is not sleeping. Nintendo has plans. Nintendo is going to release things for the Switch 2. Again, all of this hate, completely unnecessary. The death threats that people are putting out into the internet, completely unnecessary. As far as the weaknesses go of this console, I really think that with the controller, I can already feel that stick drift is going to be a thing. I'm glad that Nintendo is getting out ahead of it, saying that they'll replace Joy-Cons for free if that happens. I think that's an awesome thing for them to do. Personally, I'm going to be using more of my Pro Controller and probably the second Pro Controller that came out for the Switch 2. Of course, they want people to buy the second Pro Controller. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Again, Nintendo has some weird business practices. Whatever. I'm still going to play the damn games. And I think a lot of people should. Right? I think a lot of people that really want to and really want to go buy a Switch 2 should go buy it. They shouldn't be worried about the haters. Because the reality is, as much emulation that exists on the Steam Deck, parents are not going to go out and buy a Steam Deck just so their kid could emulate games. That's not going to happen. Now, the discussion of like, well, are parents going to be like, we already have a Switch at home, I'm not going to go buy another Switch. Maybe initially, but give it a year or two, and parents are absolutely going to go out and buy the Switch 2. Some people have already had their first Switch for a good close to 10 years at that point. So I don't think this thing of like people aren't going to want to go buy the Switch 2 because they already have one is complete bullshit. Everybody wants new games. Everybody wants to play new games. Nintendo is not going to have any problems, selling consoles beyond this 3.5 million consoles sold. They're going to sell 10 million consoles within the next few years. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. Now, if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Please let me know what you think about the Switch 2. If you have it, if you bought it on launch day, if you have had it for the last couple of days or whenever you were able to pick one up, please let me know. Like and subscribe. Bye.